Henry Ford said that failure is the opportunity to more intelligently begin again. So I want to ask you, if Henry Ford can fail 3 companies before he started the Ford Motor Company, what's your next failure going to be? And I think it's not something that we should worry about. It's something that maybe we should switch it and we should look forward to failing so that we can more intelligently begin again, like Henry Ford said. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to you about the book by Tracy on goals. Now, I've made some notes. I'm going to read my notes. I'm going to talk about some topics, and I'm going to split this up into 5 videos over the course of this next week. So if you like this video, make sure you watch the other videos that are going to be coming out. I'm filming this on vertical and horizontal, so let me know if it works, and I'd love to know your thoughts. What I really am interested in is if you can learn anything from this book like I did. I've changed a few things that I do every day now because of this book, and it's early days, but apparently it can change your life. So if that's what it can do, why not give it a go? Okay, so let's get into this. So the book starts with a very punchy how to get anything you want faster than you ever thought possible, which is a brilliant start to a book. And yeah, I'm in. I'd love to get everything that I want, especially faster than I ever thought possible. Really interesting observation that everything that you see, everything that is on the street, everything that you look at on your table, on your phone, wherever you are right now, everything that you see started in the minds of a person. And it's not like it was there before. That person had to probably convince people that it was going to work. And that's the reality that we're in now. So if that's the world that we live in, and everything around us used to be an idea in the mind of somebody before it was translated into what we physically see here, then I think it helps me realize that possibilities. I can translate my thoughts into physical manifestations, and so can you. So the question is, what are you thinking about? And is what you're thinking about what you want to manifest? An interesting point that it mentions is the difference between, now I'm going to use these broad terminologies like successful and unsuccessful people. I don't want you to get offended. It's just how the book says it, and it's a nice differentiating factor. You can easily think between one and the other. So the book essentially says that the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is successful people think about what they want most of the time, and unsuccessful people think about what they don't want most of the time. So my question to you is, what are you thinking about most of the time? Are you thinking about what you want, or are you thinking about what you don't want? Now, if you are thinking about what you don't want, don't worry. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm on this journey as well. It's about tweaking it, so it's not all negative and it's not all positive. If you are thinking about what you don't want, have one positive thought. Do one today. Do one extra thing that you can be proud of. Think about something that you'd be happy to achieve. And if this book is right, and we become what we think about most of the time, similar to what Napoleon Hill said in some of his books, I'm not sure if it's in Think and Grow Rich, but he says we become what we think about most of the time. So let's think about some big things. Let's try and create the future, because if everything was in the minds of someone else and now it's here, let's think big. All right. But firstly, he says that we need to start by writing down our goals. So if I asked you, what are your goals? Maybe you could tell me. If I asked you to show me a list of your goals, would you be able to show me that list? Now, when I listened to this and Jim Rohn speak, he mentions a similar thing. When he was being mentored by, I can't remember what his mentor's name is. But when he was being mentored, his mentor asked him to show him the list of his goals. And Jim Rohn said he didn't have any. He said, okay, was it in the car? Where is it? The point is, I didn't have any goals before I started listening to all this stuff either. Maybe they were in my head, but they weren't written down. So there's a study in the book, What They Don't Teach at Harvard Business School, where they studied MBA students from Harvard Business School, and they asked if they had goals written down. The numbers roughly were, 90% of them didn't have the goals written down, 10% had goals, the other maybe 5% had goals that were written down, and they knew what they were. So when they looked at the success of these people, and I know it's not all about money, but it's one metric that you can use to judge success. One metric that you can use to judge success is money. And what they saw is, of the people that had their written goals written down, they were earning on average, I think it's like 10 times more than the people that had no goals whatsoever. They were earning double the people that had goals but didn't have them written down. So when I heard this, I thought, hey, I might as well start writing some goals down. And when he talks about writing goals, he asks you to write them in the positive present tense. So instead of saying, I would like to earn this by then, it's quite hard for me to figure out, but you have to say, I earn X amount by this day. Or in this year, I earned X amount of money. So one of the things that I've started to do since reading this book is every day I write down the 10 goals that I want to achieve, and I write them down in the positive present tense, which means instead of saying that you would like to, write them down to say you have. You've already achieved this goal and when you achieved it. Don't worry if the goal is a bit too far-fetched and the timeline is a little bit too short. That's the whole purpose of this exercise. Write them down, create yourself a shorter time frame to give yourself a bit of pressure. And if you don't meet it, he says, it's okay. Just change the date. But have the date, have the goal, write it down, know what you're aiming for. And that's the bullet points of this whole goal setting process. So I read a book called, listen to a book, sorry. I say read, but I actually mean listen. I only listen to audiobooks because that's the way that I learn. So if you hear me saying that I read a book, just know that I listened to it. There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And in that book, it talks about the cybernetic function of the brain. I didn't know what that was before either. Essentially what it means is the human brain is so smart, it's like a supercomputer. So imagine you've got the supercomputer running 1,000 miles an hour. Now imagine that you are the guy driving the supercomputer. And admittedly, we don't always do the best with what we have. So one of the things that stood out for me when it made me realize the possibilities and the capabilities of our brain is if you think about a self-guided missile that sets off here and it reaches a target over there, yeah? So imagine that. And when I think about the technology, it's so smart, but what it is corrections. That it starts, makes corrections, makes corrections, makes corrections, makes corrections, until it arrives at its destination. Now, that, to me, sounded superhuman. However, now imagine if, I'm near you and imagine you're okay at catching a ball or whatever you're okay at, but imagine it's a ball and imagine you're okay at catching it. Now imagine I throw the ball to you 100 meters away because I can throw that far. Now imagine you catch it. How did you catch it? Your brain was continuously updating the information with your eyes where the ball was until you caught the ball, okay? So think about that. It's almost the same as a self-guided missile. So we have that capability in our head. It's just sometimes we choose not to use it and sometimes we don't use it to the best of its ability. Now, this book says that humans are one of the only species or animals that have this cybernetic capability. Now, imagine all that means is set yourself a goal. You can achieve it. You don't need to know how to get there. You just need to know the end destination and you will unerringly move towards your goal just by setting it, okay? Now, maybe not the best comparison, but he says that another animal that has this cybernetic capability is a homing pigeon. A homing pigeon, you can take it 1,000 miles away from where its home is, and when you unleash the cage, it'll fly up, circle 3 times, and go unerringly towards its destination, even though it doesn't know exactly the direction to go. This book. So I've had a couple of experiences where this has actually happened to me in my life. So I used to be an electrician. And I remember looking out of one of these high-rise buildings that we were wiring up with my mentor, and there was an office and we saw this lovely scenario, lovely scene where there was an office, loads of office people. I had no experience of being in an office. I didn't know how I could get to an office. I had no qualifications other than GCSEs. And I remember sat there and I didn't even purposely set it as a goal. It was just something that I saw this situation that I could never imagine. There was a smooth guy walking through it and I was like, wow, what a life that must be. Now, fast forward 6 years, I managed to get a degree. I completely changed careers. I left being an electrician. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being an electrician, but it wasn't for me. And what I did is I was in a new job. I was working at Sky, in the Sky advertising department. And there was a moment where when I was an electrician, I looked through the window and I saw these office people. Then there was a moment where I was in the office dressed like an office person, whatever that is. And thanks for watching this video so far, guys. Stay tuned. The next video is going to be uploaded tomorrow at the same time, 5 p.m, and we'll continue exactly where we are now. So if you like the video, give it a like, share, or subscribe, and let me know what you think. If you've got any questions, drop me a note. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.